issue of fixed election dates has re-emerged on the political campaign as we draw closer to the next general election, with many people accusing the Holness administration of breaking its promise to have that in place by this time. The administration has pushed back, saying that was a part of their manifesto in 2011, and even so, they say they have taken steps to getting an election date fixed. I hear from the foremost constitutional expert in the country and another one who is also an expert on the subject, two of them to opine on this issue of fixed election dates, the path to that, and of course answer the basic question whether indeed that is necessary for the democracy to be healthy. This is Lead Story, the Thursday edition. Let's start the show. Remarkable in my book that at this stage, this deep into a general election contest, even though nomination day has not yet been announced, that fixed election dates emerges as one of the points of contention between the opposition and the government. Surely that's a sign that the democracy is maturing and that we are on the right path. It also says that the issues, the usual bread and butter issues of crime and violence and a faltering economy and unemployment and all those things aren't as front and center in an election conversation as they usually are. There are other considerations that parties believe they can gain ground on, hence their interest in the subject. To put the issue in context, as usual, we prepared this nugget for you to bring you up to speed with where the discussions are. All right, so we're going to wait to get that. So let me just move to my guests quickly. I have Shane Darling with me. He is a lecturer in constitutional matters, constitutional affairs, and Dr. Lloyd Barnett, of course, we all know he's a constitutional expert. Good afternoon. Good evening, Dr. Barnett. Good evening, Shane Darling.
Good evening. Good evening, George.
Good evening, Dr. Barnett. Good evening, George.
Shane, are you hearing me clearly, sir?
I am hearing you.
Excellent.
Can you hear me any better now?
I'm hearing you perfectly fine, Dr. Barnett. All right.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you loudly. I'm hearing you clearly. Let's crack on. Dr. Barnett, the issue of fixed election dates, I want to ask you about this issue from the perspective of the democracy. Does this Jamaican democracy at this stage of its maturity or immaturity, depending on how you look at it, does it need to have a fixed date for a general election, you think?
I wouldn't put the question that way. I would say, is it desirable that we should have a fixed election date? And the factors in favor of that are well known. Political leaders have from time to time spoken in favor of it. I've heard no political leader say the opposite. I've heard no rational arguments against it. And so that on the face of all that has happened, it seems to me that it is something that we should go forward with.
Is there a process that has been engaged in recent time to take us to that place where the election date, the general election date, is fixed in law?
Well, the fixing of the election date, as is probably well recognized now, is one of those changes which can only be brought about with a referendum, because that arrangement is deeply entrenched in the Constitution. So it is from that point of view that a consensus between the two major political parties is very essential to the process. Neither of the political parties have expressed opposition to it. Both have from time to time, through their leaders, expressed support for it. All indications are that the public support it. So that it's really a question of including it in the proposed changes. The Constitutional Reform Committee recommended it, and therefore the only question that remains is exactly how it should be framed in the constitutional reform provisions.
Shane Darling, the issue of the fixing of the election date, do you look at this Jamaican democracy and say this is something that makes it weaker, the fact that there is no fixed election date under law?
Yes, because one of the major reasons which have been given by political leaders and commentators and experts is that it gives an unfair advantage to the incumbent party. It creates a lot of uncertainty, massive waste of resources and money, and it is not conducive to good administration, either in the government or in the private sector.
Let me take the break right here, gentlemen, and come right back. After the break, I'll introduce Shane Darling to the conversation. This is Lead Story here on CVM TV.
When you charge your electric vehicle with JPS, it's even more affordable than gas. Our Charge and Go network offers the fastest electric vehicle chargers, so you can power up in as little as 30 minutes. With over 39 charging points island-wide, you'll always find a convenient place to shop, eat, work, or relax while you recharge. The Charge Lab app and Charge and Go RFID card make it easy to pay and track your charge right from your phone. Start charge. Learn more at jps.com/charge and go.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction, 'cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit the dark, shine your lights
Talking about the issue of fixing the election dates, it happens in some jurisdictions where the dates for federal elections are fixed. In the U.S., we all know that in November, the Tuesday in November is when in a 4-year cycle is when the U.S. goes to the poll to select the new president. And in other parts of the world, in Canada, there is also a fixed election date. Britain had it but walked it back. And now this argument in Jamaica about fixing the date for the general election. I have Shane Darling with me, and I have Dr. Lloyd Barnett. Shane Darling, I was putting a question to you. Dr. Barnett took it, but I can put it back to you nonetheless. Is this Jamaican democracy weak to the extent that you look at it and say, fixing the general election date is part of that process of making the democracy stronger?
I don't believe so. I believe the current construct of our constitutional arrangement is quite democratic, contrary to other person's belief. And a strong democracy always leaves the power in the hands of the people to dictate the date of election. And a government, Dr. Lloyd Barnett pointed out that when you have fixed election dates, everybody knows the date of election. But what is strange about that arrangement, is, George, is that when you have a fixed election date, what you have is a dictatorship for 4 years. And I said a dictatorship, meaning no matter how you dislike the government, no matter how the approval ratings of the government is underwater, at zero, the people have totally lost confidence. They will have to wait based on law for that fixed date to remove that government. Where you have a flexible arrangement, a government feeling the pressure from the people would be forced to go to the poll to get what you call a vote of confidence or lack thereof from the people. In the United Kingdom, they experienced that recently, where they passed a fixed election date act, where the election was set. And after a period of time, the dissent from the people was felt by the government. And the government itself had to go to the parliament to amend the act in order to call an early election where the people send a clear signal to the government as to where it wanted to go. And by 2022, the parliament repealed the fixed election day law and reverted to the original stage. Now, if you want any better example, the UK would be the best one. We are modeling our system of a federal system in the United States, where you have a total separation of power between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. In the Westminster model, what you have is a fusion of power between the executive and the legislature, and therefore the current construct is better suited for our arrangement than that of the United States. I think we're using the wrong example, and England experimented with it, and we saw the issue, Dr. Lloyd Barnett. Why would we go down that road after having that experience? I believe it's a nicety that we'd like to see, but there is no virtue in terms of true democracy in fixing a government onto a people where the people have no power to really say to the government, we are ready for an election.
I hear the argument as well, Shane Darling, that as things stand now, with the Prime Minister having the gift to call the election when he or she sees fit, that it prompts a waste of resources, it is untidy, it foments uncertainty. And I'm looking for the quantifiers to back those arguments. Have you seen those quantifiers about the time wasted, the money wasted, the injury to the democracy by virtue of the status quo?
Well, I think people are misunderstanding and misreading the Constitution. The Constitution creates a government for 5 years. And if the Prime Minister does not call an election within that 5 years, the Constitution automatically dissolves Parliament. And a government is forced to call an election within 3 months of that proroguing of the Parliament under constitutional arrangement. So the uncertainty only lies in knowing the exact date. And there's no waste in terms of that period, because a government can go up to a full 5-year term. They never have it, but it does not mean that a government can't. And therefore, calling an election when it's advantageous to you, it is the people's will. Because no matter when you call the election, 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, remember, at the end of the day, it is the people of the country, regardless of the state that the government arrangements are. The people will decide whether they are giving the government a vote of no confidence, whether they call that election in 3 years, when they feel it's advantageous to them. Then what you're seeking to do is to deprive the people, put them in a space where you force a particular date, barring any emergencies. I'm sure, and I'll say this quite frankly, if the American arrangement was that there could be an election called at any time, the people of America would be in the streets right now demanding that a fresh election be called.
I hear you on that. I'm going to take the break, and when I come back, I hear from Dr. Lloyd Barnett to the points that Shane Darling has made, and to the greater point of, in real terms, how does fixing the election date, setting a date in law, how does that strengthen the democracy, and how does that provide a fair playing ground for the campaign towards the next election for all parties interested in representing constituents in Parliament? After the break.
This iconic Jamaican has graced many a stage. From Broadway to TV to film, it's safe to say her star shines very bright. She is
the Honorable Dr. Cheryl Lee Ralph, Order of Jamaica. I love that so much. Yes.
what she said.
I was literally moved to tears, very much like when I got the call that I had been nominated for my first Emmy.
Yeah.
And then it was as if the spirit of my mother was rising up because my mother always said, my children are to go further than I did. Don't you ever give up on yourself. Because if I'd given up on myself, I wouldn't be here. But here I am, Medea.
Odyssey with Yendi, brought to you by Grace, Singer, and Islandnet Services.
Jamaica is paving the way to becoming a republic, or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Back with us on Lead Story, talking about fixing the election date and the utility of doing so, where the strength of the democracy is concerned and where fairness to interested parties keen on representing constituents in Parliament are concerned. How does fixing the election date address all those things? I have Dr. Lloyd Barnett with me, and I have Shane Darling with me as well. Dr. Barnett, the window as specified, Section 64 of the Representation of the People Act that Shane Darling referred to, which sets the timetable for the calling of an election and sets the framework and the context, what can delay the calling of election as per the Constitution. He's saying that that mechanism has worked well and serves good purposes. I want to hear you on that as an argument against bothering ourselves with fixing a specific date in law for the keeping of a general election.
It has not worked well, and I'm really surprised that anyone should say that the present system gives to the people the power to decide when elections are held. This is completely inconsistent, not only with the facts, but with the legal provisions. Secondly, the example he gave of the United Kingdom is one of the poorest examples you can give, because that Prime Minister tried to manipulate the system because of the Brexit problem, and in the end, tried to manipulate the sittings of Parliament, so that for the first time in the history of a Commonwealth country, the court, the Supreme Court of England, condemned the Prime Ministers handing out of that. There are countries which have fixed dates, which are in the Commonwealth, like Canada. There are countries outside the Commonwealth, like Germany and the Dominican Republic, so that it is a matter of judging what are the pros and cons. There is no doubt that there are strong arguments for, and I'm not saying an exact fixed date, but certainly a fixed period, because that means for fairness, because the present system by which it is called at the whims and fancies of the Prime Minister is not fair, and most people accept that. The second thing, it is not efficient, because the administration, not only of the government, but the plans of the private sector are affected by the uncertainty. And the third thing is that the making of the arrangements for the holding of the elections become far more challenging, costly, and problematic in relation to the uncertainties which exist. For instance, there are several things which are based on a time factor, like campaign financing, but if there's no prescribed time, it just can't work properly. The monitoring of the political ombudsman functions is, kept in hiatus, and therefore there is hardly any practical or principled reasons why there should not be, as a fixed election date or a fixed election period. With flexibility.
Let me give Shane Darling the right of response. Go ahead, Mr. Darling.
Well, Dr. Lloyd Barnett, let me say this, that what you've just outlined is that you're saying you're not really for a fixed election date, but you are a fixed election period. But the current constitutional arrangement does provide for a fixed election period.
No, it doesn't provide for a fixed period. It provides for a maximum period. That's
No,
not
yeah,
a fixed
no.
period. A fixed
But,
period
but,
is the election has to be held within a particular time.
but it does, Dr. Barnett. Let me tell you why. It says that it is 5 years from the date of the convening of the next parliament. The parliament must be prorogued, and within 3 months of that, the election must be called. So no government has the latitude to go beyond that. So people know. So let me go back to the point. The disadvantage that you pointed out is a disadvantage to the business community and a disadvantage to an opposition party, but not a disadvantage to the people, because the will of the people is exercised at a vote, whether it be every 2 years, every 4 years, every 5 years, and whether the election date is fixed or it is called at any time, the power is returned to the people and the people make a conscious decision. If you are saying, on the other hand, that not having a fixed election date deprives the people of the will to choose a government fairly and in a democratic way, then I'd agree. But you're not saying that, and that's not the case in Jamaica. What the disadvantage you and others are pointing out are that it is disadvantageous to an opposition party in terms of their preparedness, but an opposition in waiting is always prepared and must always be prepared. And the people at the end of the day select their government in a free and democratic process, whether it is called a snap election or it is for the 5 full year term. The people decide, and that is what a democracy does.
Yes, hear you on that. Dr. Barnett, you want to respond?
Yes, the people decide when the elections are called on whom they decide should run the government, and that operates in either system, and that is not the issue. Nobody who speaks in favor of fixed election dates put forward that as the ground, and I'm surprised that it is being said, as I said before, that is the people who decide when the elections are held. We have had experiences in which that clearly was not right. So that, and many other countries have had that experience.
But Dr. Barnett, if I may, sir, Dr. Barnett, if I may, Dr. Barnett, consider this. If it is that we had a fixed election day, or we have a fixed election date, and like the UK very recently, where Boris Johnson won a massive Conservative majority at the general election in the UK, he, because of COVID-19 breaches and lying on what Sue Gray found in her report, he came under pressure to resign. Boris Johnson resigns. Liz Truss wins the Conservative race to replace him as Prime Minister. Then she bombs after a horrific period of economic foolhardy decisions. She is replaced by Rishi Sunak. So now you have the UK, a person in Devon or somewhere else in northeast Somerset, who voted for the Conservatives because he wanted Johnson as his Prime Minister, moved from Johnson to Liz Truss to Rishi Sunak, and he's trapped in that because there's no way for the decision to come back to him and others to vote for a government they want with the leader they want. So I'm saying, is this a desirable state of affairs that you would like to see here, where we could fall into that same Prime Minister switching trap because we can't go to general elections before a certain date?
There is, in our system, and this can be adopted, various ways in which strict rules or strict criteria can be modified in exceptional circumstances. There are many cases in which, for instance, you have a provision which says that such and such a thing should be done by a special majority. It may be done otherwise, because if the popular view is strongly against something, then that should be reflected among the representatives. So you can say that even if you have a fixed election date, a special majority can change that date. But as a general principle, and in order to achieve fairness and proper administration, there is a strong argument in favor of a fixed date or a fixed period.
Hear you on that.
To
Hear
say
you on
that
that.
it's a maximum time is not a fixed period.
Go ahead, Shane Darling. Go ahead, Shane Darling.
To say
Dr.
that there
Darling.
is a maximum period is a fixed period, that's rubbish.
Shane, let me hear Shane Darling on this, Dr. Barnett. Go ahead, Shane.
Dr. Barnett, as you know, the seminal principle in law, that the law must be firm, but yet the law cannot stand still. The current constitutional arrangement, no government, and I've not heard any of the persons cited, any government for breaching the constitutional arrangement in terms of calling the election within that 5-year window or an extended 3 months where there's need to. What you find here is a very flexible constitutional arrangement where the government has a fixed period in power, but may go at an earlier period, whether it suits them or not. But at the end of the day, Dr. Lord Barnett, tell me, how does it deprive the people, the voting population, of the right to select their government, regardless of whether the election is fixed or as we have it here in Jamaica? Who does it
In
deprive
both
the
cases,
people?
the people decide. In both cases, the people decide who they will elect to govern the country. And the question is whether the conduct of those elections and the situation in which it can be called at any time by one person is fair. That is the question.
Hear you on that.
Is
Gentlemen,
fair?
I have to leave it there, unfortunately. I'm way out of time. I could sit here for another hour listening to this. Thank you very much, Dr. Barnett, for your time. Thank you very much, Shane Darling, for your time.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm just saying that,